So today I'm going to talk about some random topics, just some thoughts about some different things. I don't know if there will be some particular topic for this video and how to name this video later, but we'll see. And the first idea is about that when I was advised to learn English, to learn speaking English by writing some topics that I like, and then kind of retelling them or maybe reciting them using dictaphone, and then listening to myself so that I could get the feeling of my own voice, of the speed of my speech and other stuff. And the main problem was that it is hard for me to create my own topics because I don't know what to talk about, or actually I have some ideas, but it's not no fun for me to create the topic and then learn it because I created this topic. It's more fun for me to find some particular topic that I like and then learn it by heart, expanding my vocabulary this way, and getting something from this topic that I really like. Usually I don't like much the topics that I can create by myself because they have this, let's say, mystery in it, because I created all the sentences, so there is no real enjoyment in learning the thing that I created myself. It was about a year ago, and I thought about this advice from time to time, and I couldn't find the way to bring it to life. But then I started to talk aloud in English on some random topics using the vocabulary I knew. And it's kind of frustrating because I want to express some ideas from Russian that I can speak in Russian, and these ideas are not interesting for me in Russian because I repeated them lots of time to this point. So but in English they have some fresh air in them, because trying to explain the same ideas with the new language, it's some challenging way for me. That's the way I watch animes. Animes have no many, attraction in them, because they are drawn by hand, and the animation sometimes is much worse than in Disney drawn movies, cartoons. But when I discovered that there is a bunch of animes with good English translation and voicing, and when I watch the animes this way with the voices of English actors behind the character of the particular drawn person on the screen, this process got me. I think I enjoy the way the actors voice the characters. I enjoy this voicing more than the actions and the events on the screen itself. The simplest example for this is that when I tried to watch the Death Note in Russian, I managed to walk through 5 or 6 episodes until this light guy decided to kill the fiance of one of the FBI agents, and this fiance almost discovered light. And I just stopped here because the story was not so cool for me, and I didn't like the way they Russian guys voiced these characters. But when I started to watch animes in English, I went back to this anime and I watched all the rest of the Death Note without any stops, because I liked the voices for these characters, and I think the audio part of anime is the most important part for me. Yeah. But in Russian, I watched some animes from the beginning to the end. The Ego Proxy and the Garden of Sinners, and I think that the voices were quite good, yeah, and the story was so well that I just couldn't stop to watch it. Yeah, I think the same goes with Evangelion. When I tried to watch it in Russian, the first episode was so bad for me because I didn't like this square and triangle drawings, faces, characters, and other stuff. But when I repeated all this Evangelion stuff in English, that was the discovery for me, because voices are so cool. And when they created, when the Japanese guys created the rebuild of Evangelion, like 10 years later, and then 25 years later, the last movie, and the main characters from the English voicing cast, the English translation was made maybe 5 or more years later after the original Japanese Evangelion was created. So the English translation was made somewhere in 2001, maybe later. So the characters, the actors who made this English translation, they also made the translation for the rebuild of Evangelion for the first movie in 2006 maybe, and for the last movie in 2021. So it was so cool to hear that the same woman voiced this, I don't remember her name, Katsunagi, I don't know, this woman who, well, I don't remember the names of the characters, except for Asuka Ray. I even forgot the name of the boy, but he lived with this woman of 25 years old, so she was voiced by one American woman, and that American woman's voice had some pitches, tones, and other stuff in it that made this voice unique, and I really liked when I heard her voice again, because it was like an old acquaintance of mine. What I wanted to say is I'm going to return back to the topic from which I started this video, and this topic about creating my own stories. Yeah, I like to listen to someone else's stories or learn by heart someone else's texts, and it was difficult for me to create my own texts because they have no this mystery component that is so crucial for me. But I started to talk in English, explaining the ideas I can explain and the ideas I have in my Russian ideas, but I using only the vocabulary that I have now, that I have in English, and it was kind of frustrating, and it is still frustrating because I understand lots of English words while listening to or reading something, but I can't use these English words actively because I never used them before, so I can't find a way to activate these words in my current speech, because first I need to think about some topic, then find the words that I don't know in English and translate them, and then I need to use these English keywords to express my ideas in English. That sounds quite rational and quite logical, but the main disadvantage of this approach that usually, as I said, I'm not good at creating stories, and when I talk about something, it's more like the current of thought without any preparation, at least in English. So I can talk in English on some topics during the process of talking, and to create some text beforehand is quite a difficult task for me, because I start to think that I should create more, let's say, perfect sentences, but I can't think of them, and the sentences I think about right now is not so good, so I start to think about these thoughts instead of thinking about the real material, and then I just stop and I drop this idea. But maybe I should try to speak in English on some particular topic, like this, talking to this video, and when like to the real person, and then while talking I will remember some ideas that some facts, memories that I knew about this topic, but I forgot about it from the past, because I never returned to this topic for maybe 5-8 years. And while I talking to this video, these memories revive in my head, and maybe later I should write down the key ideas that I remembered during this talking, and then find out the words that I want to use as the keywords, the foundation for this topic, but I don't know them in English, so I can translate them, write them down, and the next time repeat the same topic, but using the correct words, and make this topic more kind of quick, concise, and it looks logical. It's the same way the speakers learn to create the speaker courses when they speak to the, let's say, the friends or the family. Then they have the ideas, they write down these ideas, they create more interesting representation of these ideas, and later they create these courses, and they give let's say lectures in front of the audience. But these lectures were not the improvisation from their mind, but they were the 10th, maybe the 20th version of the topic they worked at for some time. But these speakers usually earn money from these lectures, so creating these lectures for them is like preparation for earning money, but for me it will be just the way of trying to learn speaking English, because I don't know whether it will be a successful way for me, successful approach. So, and another side of this learning process is that it must be at least enjoyable for me. I should have fun doing it, because I watch animes and they're fun, but they have no practice value for life. But I do my job and it's not fun, but it helps me to earn money. So this creating the topics in English and adding some new words for these particular topics must be at least with one advantage, like having fun, because I won't get any money from this process. Anyway, I wanted to show the example of expressing the ideas from Russian, the ideas that I have, and I could easily speak about them when I remember them, because sometimes when someone asks me to talk about any random topic, well, to show my level of English, I can't think of anything. But if I spend enough time remembering the topics that I liked in Russian, maybe not liked, but that were quite interesting for me, and where I had enough, let's say, foundation to express my topics in interesting manner, then I can find lots of these topics, maybe dozens of these topics, and I can use them as the foundation for my English topics. And the lastest idea that I thought about was about explaining, for example, the plot of some Soviet movie for, let's say, the person who never saw this movie, but I need to explain it quite well so that the person got the impression and maybe wanted to watch this movie. It's not about the English-speaking person because the Soviet movies have only subtitles. Well, that's fine because I watched lots of Korean and Japanese movies with subtitles and they sound quite cool. So the movie to talk about is maybe The Brilliant Arm, the Arm of Brilliant, the Diamond Arm. This is the Soviet comedy of 1968. I think the period of time that continued from 1960 to 1969 is called in the history of the Soviet Union like шестидесятники, which means the people who lived in this period of time of the 60s, yeah, and this was the time of freedom for the Soviet people because censorship was quite kind of weak or easy on literature and movies. I think that's because of the period of time that is called ottepel, which is the thaw, like the thaw, when the snow thaw, it turns into water. So this thaw period of time is after the Stalin's regime, when Khrushchev came to the rule, and he decided to change the way people thought about Stalin as the father of nations, as the leader, and Khrushchev, kind of changed this way of thinking by moving Stalin's body from the mausoleum, from the Red Square, where this body was put beside Lenin's body, and then when lots of statues of Stalin were removed from the squares around the country, the portraits of Stalin were removed from the rooms of political guys, from the rooms of schools and other stuff, because during the life of Stalin, he was kind of the god on earth, but without any believing in God. So he was the leader, the main man in the Soviet Union. And after his death, this image of his was destroyed as much as he could, as much as it was possible. And for the next, Stalin died in 1953, and the thaw period of Khrushchev's politics began, I think, in 1956, and technically maybe this was from 56 to 66, but maybe the starting point, the beginning of this period was quite long, and when this period kind of was closed, the ending was quite long as well. So the history is usually says that the history usually says that the period of this kind of freedom or liberty for the Soviet people was through these 60s, through the whole 10 years, and in literature it was about creating some wonderful science fiction stories or even fantasy stories like Monday Begins on Saturday by Strugatsky brothers. And these stories were not about the material realism, which was the only way of thought in the Soviet Union, because all other stuff about fantasy, imagination, and other stuff was from the bourgeoisie of the West, which was the enemy way of thinking. So the Soviet people should only think about creating the bright future for them and for the laborers of the whole world by applying their current knowledges into creating factories, buildings, and other stuff which can be materialistic and real, because all this stuff of sci-fi and even fantasy, let's say Hobbit, wizards, and other stuff, is this stuff distracts the people of the Soviet Union from the building of communism. Okay, but in the 60s, this distraction was quite acceptable, and lots of literature and movies were made with this kind of science fiction or fantasy stuff that was main idea in the enemy West, West thinking. And I remember now one movie that I watched once, and it was made in maybe 65 or 68, and it was sci-fi movie when the Soviet astronauts with one American astronaut traveled through the space, I don't know, maybe to Venus, and they landed there, and they explored the surface of the Venus, and they had some adventures, and the most interesting adventure was that this American astronaut had his robot with him, with kind of artificial intelligence in this robot, and he believed in the robot more than in people. And at some point they got into the lava stream from the eruption of some volcano, and they couldn't escape out of some small island that was surrounded by lava, and this robot kind of put them on top, on its shoulders, and he walked through this lever, and then they jumped out of his from his shoulders on the land, and they were saved. But the robot couldn't escape from the lever, and it died. And this American scientist was very upset because this robot was kind of his friend, and this robot saved them all. And some commenters for this movie said that this moment of robot dying in the lever inspired James Cameron, to create his second Terminator, and to make Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator died in this hot metal substance to destroy the chip inside of his head. Yeah, that was cool, and this was quite interesting story, though it's so old and the special effects are so poor if we compare it to current time. But for the Soviet Union, it was the one of the few movies on these topics, and it was really cool. And now I remembered about it when I talked about it, and I think I could give it another try and rewatch this stuff, because the idea, the implementation is really cool for the 1960s. And later these ideas were not used further, because the thaw period of history in the Soviet Union finished, and the ideology returned to this materialistic realism, when people should think about creating the communism and building the material future for the peoples of the Soviet, for the Soviet nation, without being distracted by this kind of stuff. Anyway, I think that's why the Soviet comedy, The Brilliant Arm, was created in 1968, because it was the product of this thaw period in the Soviet history. And this particular comedy is based on our reality without any fantastic things or graphics. That's why it is watched now is quite well, without when you watch it, you don't think that it was made like 60 years ago. 60 years ago, yeah. You just watch it because it was so cool. The language is so contemporary. There is no references to the Soviet period of time, almost. So the events of this comedy could really happen in our contemporary time. And what makes The Brilliant Arm so cool is that the topics include lots of subjects, terms from the enemy Western ideology. Like there were criminals who, I think, smuggled jewels from the outside of the Soviet Union to the country. There was the criminal boss and his thugs who performed the tasks for him. There was a woman who was a, let's say, high-paid prostitute, what else? Yeah, there were some I don't know, races in cars when the police followed the criminals and tried to stop them from escaping. I don't know the particular term for this word. And the way they smuggled the jewels into the country, they had several ways. Like they had a cane that was hollow inside, and they put golden coins into this hollow room inside the cane, and then they put the upper part of the cane on this hollow, yeah. And it was like an ordinary cane, but they knew that inside of it were these coins, golden coins, and they transferred these coins into the country, and within the country they took out the coins and they put them into some, I don't know, some box, and put the box in the ground. And then the criminal boss, who was the boss in disguise, because he couldn't just say that he is a criminal boss like the mafia's guys in America. If he had told that, he would have been arrested at once. So he pretended to be just an ordinary Soviet guy, and he worked at some organization, and one day at Saturday they all digged the ground, because it was the usual Soviet way of spending time on Saturday, by doing some social work, like planting the trees or digging the ground for some reason. And he dug out this box with coins, and it was like he found a treasure. And according to the Soviet Union laws, the founder of the treasure received, I think, 25% of the cost of this treasure. So he got enough money to buy himself a new car, which was the Moskvich of the last design of the last brand, yeah. And the other way to transfer money, to transfer jewels from outside into the Soviet Union, was to take a guy and fake the way he broke his arm, for example, and then put this hard white substance on his arm to prevent it from wounding and to help to heal the arm. I don't know the term for this substance in English, but when they kind of wrapped his arm was quite well, but they wrapped his arm with this material which was in the beginning soft. And when they wrapped his arm with this material, they put jewels on this material, and they wrapped this arm with jewels again, and there were several layers of this material, and they put lots of jewels inside this material, and because this material hardened later, no one could use fingers to distinguish the hard jewels from the hard material. And when the guy came to the Soviet Union, he came to this criminal boss, and they just removed this this material with the jewels and wrapped his arm with the new empty material. But then they used these jewels to kind of sell them and get money from this criminal transaction. And the comedy is about the simple Russian Soviet guy who went on some voyage and who kind of who got on the place where the criminal should be should get this bandage about his around his arm, and the criminals from this international foreign country mistaken him for their client, because he was the Soviet man as well, and he discovered that they put the jewels into his into this material for his arm, and he went to the police, and then they made him kind of an agent to catch the whole band and this criminal boss. And this simple Soviet guy went through different adventures with, as I said, racing of the police cars again after the criminal cars, with these high-paid prostitutes and other stuff. And the comedy was brilliant, but the censorship, who gave agreement to show this comedy in the Soviet cinemas, they could not accept this movie because all these kind of American adventures and events that happened to this guy. And the director of this movie found a solution. He put the nuclear blast of some city, the documentary nuclear blast, as the final event in this movie. And they asked reviewers asked him why he put this nuclear blast that did not connect to the events, did not relate to the events of the movie at all. And the director said that everything that was in the movie was just the imagination, was just fiction, but the nuclear blast was the true representation of life, according to this materialistic realism approach. And then they said that he could keep all these adventures through the criminals, gun shooting, and prostitutes in the movie if he would remove this nuclear blast. So that way, the director shifted the attention of the reviewers from the movie itself to this, let's say, kind of realistic but very, important, painful, problem, and they just agreed to let the movie go if he removed this nuclear blast, and he did so, and the movie was shown in the theaters and in the cinemas, and we can watch this movie now in the way it was created by this director. It was a very interesting idea to got out of this censorship situation. So my idea was to describe this funny fact about the creating of this movie, and explaining the plot of the movie to the person as if this person never saw this movie, and use only the language that I knew to do this task. And as we can see, I couldn't find some simple words, some concise words to describe this material for the broken arm, this race against the police car after the criminal car, and maybe the smuggle of jewels into the country. These words would concisely describe the idea that I want to tell, but because I don't know them, I have to find the way to lead the listener's mind to these words, to discover them in the mind without listening them in the English, because I really don't know these words. So this is the problem I try to surpass, to resolve now, about getting the words somehow necessary for describing the ideas I want to describe, and these ideas are from different aspects of my life, but they're not about the special terms like from physics or chemistry. They are from the everyday life, but from different aspects of life that are not so frequent in my vocabulary. And maybe when I see or listen or hear the particular word, I know the translation of it from English into Russian, but I can't just get it from my mind, from my passive vocabulary, to use it in the speech when I want to describe something without making speech too slow or with too wide pauses. So this is the task I want to get now, by getting enough words in my vocabulary to express this types of situation. So that's all for today.